head shit. I'm in my bed, I'm on your I'm in your
I hate this on the radio. They always fucking some shit up. I mean, I guess they can't play this, but that's why certain things the radio just needs to refrain from playing, because they ruin it. And I think about how crazy the kids sound nowadays when they be trying to sing stuff that they hear on the radio. Like all these weird ass little things that they can't say because it's all bleeped out and they don't know the real words that go there. Anyway, sorry I went on that little tangent. Let's chat. So I was feeling a little uninspired this week, a little unmotivated. So I asked my Instagram followers, what would you like to hear me talk about this week? And somebody said something that struck a light bulb, which is, should you, or is it a good idea to live with your significant other before you are engaged or married? As somebody who has lived with a boyfriend before, I got mixed feelings about it. I see both sides of the coin. And being, like, having gone through it, I see how, like, messy it can get, and I see how convenient it could be. Like, when me and him initially decided that we were going to live together, at the time it just made sense because, like, I was fresh out of college. He was trying to get out of his parents' home, and we were both, like, just trying to start these new lives, and we were together all the time, so it just made sense, like, well, we might as well just do it together. And at the time, that seemed like a great idea. And of course, I mean, he's an ex, so of course, like, shit went left. And it left us in a weird position. I'm not gonna say, well, both of us, but more so, like, him, he got stuck paying rent for a place that he was no longer living at. So I'm sure he wasn't a happy camper about that. And I know before we even moved in together, one of the first things my mom told me is, you know, you grown, but you need to think about making sure you pick a place that you can afford if this does not work out. And you know, at the time, you'll be trying to hit a line, "Mom, we gonna be good." But you know, I took that to heart because I was old enough to realize, like, relationships aren't necessarily forever all the time. And if, like, this is a big commitment, and if shit goes left, I do need to be able to afford this motherfucker by myself. And thank God I went with that, because of one of the places we was looking at, we would have need both of our income in order to make it. And we just decided to downsize and just do something small. Like, we'll just stay here for a year. You know, it wasn't that much space. But when you in love, you don't be needing no space like that, no way. So, yeah. And it just didn't. Of course, it didn't work out. And, you know me, a bitch is about her coin. So, I wasn't finna get left. You gonna leave the relationship and you gonna leave me with this apartment by myself? Mm-mm. So, yeah, he ended up having to pay rent for a place he was no longer staying for the remainder of that lease. And yeah, it just gets messy. But I thought it was important to hear other people's perspectives. And something else I want to mention about, like, me being the one that was left in the apartment is weird, because, like, you come into that space together, so to know that, like, the relationship over, that motherfucker gone, like, it was weird. I didn't want to, like, I just didn't want to be in that space anymore, because I'm like, listen, like, this space used to represent love and foundation and building, and that shit went right on out the fucking door with his ass. Okay, so yeah, I took to my Instagram to ask more people why, if they felt like you should not live with a significant other before marriage, why did they feel that way? And so I'm just going to take you guys down a couple of pros and cons to living with your significant other before marriage. So we're going to start off with the pros. So I had one of my guy followers ask, like, well, how do you even know, like, when you should start considering living with somebody? And I honestly think it's like when you start getting to a point where you feel like you could see forever with this person, like, this is somebody that you could definitely see a future with. If you two are people who believe that living together before taking that final step is important, then that's that moment when you start having them type of thoughts. Because if you don't have those type of thoughts, then that means your relationship is going in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? Not necessarily living together part, but just the envisioning life together, or envisioning what building a life together would look like. So I think for a lot of people, they attach living with somebody as far as saying, like, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? And a part of that is true. I think for most people, when they decide to live together, it just makes more sense. Like I said, you know, with my situation, most of the time it's financially it makes more sense. One of my coworkers is newly engaged, and she said for them, it just got to a point where he was always either with her, she was always at his house, and it just didn't make sense for her to be paying a rent, him to be paying a mortgage. And something else she mentioned was, you know, you don't think about it, it's like, if you spending so much of your time with them, that means you probably eating together most of the time. So like buying groceries, she said that became like an annoyance, because it's like, well, I don't want to buy a week's worth of groceries, and I'm not going to even be here the whole week because I'm going to be at his house. You know what I mean? Man, I don't want to fully stock his fridge, because then when I go home, I ain't going to have shit to eat, you know? So she said for her, that is the part that got a little sticky. And somebody else that I talked to who's newly engaged, about to get married, she also mentioned that, like, while their plan was not to originally live together before marriage, it ended up working out for the best, and they ended up saving a shit ton of money that they were able to eventually put towards their wedding, because they weren't dealing with two households, which can become a lot again when you're spending so much of your time together. Now, it's different if you are somebody who is big on like your space, so you're not gonna be laid up under that nigga every night, because you gonna go home and lay in your own bed. Because sis, I feel you. Me is sis, and sis is me. And something else she mentioned is, you know, you all's relationship may go through a period of time where somebody is much more busier than the other person, or just like in life. Like she said, I was in school, I was interning, and I was working at the same time. And if we didn't live together, like, we wouldn't have seen each other. And that's what she said, at the beginning of their relationship, that's how it was. They wasn't living together, and it was hard to like spend time with one another. Whereas even if it's just like laying down together at the end of the night because y'all getting ready to go to bed, that was still some type of like bonding time, which was important for them. I think a lot of people just think it's beneficial also because of the whole saying, like, you don't really know somebody until you live with them. And a part of that, I think, can be true. I believe a part of that can be true. And a couple of the married couples or people that I spoke with said that for them, it was very integral in like knowing that either that they were really prepared for marriage. And I had a woman say that, like, if I didn't live with him, I don't know if I would have honestly been able to like trust myself in knowing that like I'm ready to embark on this lifelong journey with this man. So that's something else people typically think about. And just knowing all the different parts of your partner. Now, I'm not saying you can't learn the different parts of your partner without you all living together. I just think for a lot of people, that's what they want to know, fully what they're getting themselves into. And a part of me can understand that, just because I think you getting married or being engaged or deciding that you're going to go live with your significant other, it can be very overwhelming. You get a lot of thoughts, a lot of nerves, a lot of feelings behind like making such big life transitions. Like my coworker said, when the first night she moved in with her guy, her now fiance, they finished getting her stuff out, you know, the car, and he was like, okay, I'm getting ready to go take a nap. And her first instinct was to be like, oh, well, I mean, I'll just go to my place. And she was like, I realized I didn't have a place to go to. And she was like, I sat on his front porch crying. And she was like, I don't think I would have wanted to go through like that realization or that epiphany that like you're now combining lives with somebody while also being married. So for some people, it can be overwhelming, and it's better for them to hit one major milestone, tackle that, and then hit another one. Whereas like when you get married, everything that you all do together becomes like a big major milestone that you're tackling at one time. And yeah, everybody's not prepared to deal with it. So she said like for them, she's glad that she was able to have that moment before like they got married, because having it afterwards would have probably brought up like more uncomfortable emotions, just because like now you know like you in this for life. Not that you're stuck, you just, you know, it really hits you like, bro, like this is it. So I think that's something to think about. Like, do you really know all parts of a person before you live with them? Like, that's a question you have to ask yourself. And are you doing your due diligence to make sure that you know your partner's ins and outs, even if you don't live with them? Because for one married girl I know, she said that she thinks living together beforehand, it just made the transition into marriage a lot more smoother. And it's not to say, like, you know, that they didn't have stuff that came up, but the whole living together thing was a mountain that they had already, like, tackled. They didn't have to worry about, you know, going through certain things. And like my coworker said, because they lived together, you know, when it came to like their marriage or like, you know, her bridal shower, things like that, a lot of the home items that people like get, they didn't need, or they didn't need to ask for, and they could just get cash and spend it, you know, in another way, because they already have a life semi-established together. So yeah, those are just a few things to think about when it comes to, I know for one, it wasn't until I started talking to people who were married, or just like started to hear other people's perspectives about why they didn't think you should live with your significant other, that I really started to be like, that's something to think about. Because I've always been the type to feel like I need to live with you before we get married, because again, you're convinced that like you're gonna miss something important before jumping that broom if you don't do that. And I think that can be a reflection of like where your faith is too, which is what we're getting ready to get into next. Like a lot of people who have the con side and feel like you should not live with somebody before you get married. Of course, it's like faith-based, and you know, if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, knowing that he's going to provide for you. Like I had a follower say that, and that spoke to me, like knowing that he's going to provide all your needs and that you can trust him with every area of your life. So going into a marriage where you haven't lived with somebody, you don't necessarily need to feel blinded, because if he's the one who's leading you all's marriage and you all, you know, in your life, then he already got it worked out for you. And whatever comes across y'all path, y'all gonna be able to figure out together, okay? That's the word. One of my followers that's engaged said because her and her fiance didn't, you know, they're Christians, and they, of course, they didn't save themselves for marriage like they didn't, but you know, they didn't practice celibacy. They wanted to leave living together as like something sacred for marriage, how a lot of people do, like, you know, having sex. And that is something that I can understand. Like one of the best responses that I got, I asked, you know, this girl, I know her and her husband have been married for a couple of years. They seem to be doing very well. And she said they didn't live together because they wanted to go, she said she felt like it takes away from the marriage journey and experience. She said they wanted to enter into a space that they hadn't, a territory that they hadn't covered together, which was living together and learning each other in that capacity. And I could say, you know, that does make a lot of sense, because it's kind of like, you know how they tell you not to do everything while you still young, you know, while you too young, because then you'll have shit to look forward to. And for a lot of people, living together and learning each other and having that new journey is exciting and something that they want to keep sacred. So I get it. I even had one guy pretty much say that he saw an article that said 60% of couples who live together get divorced. And that alone was enough to like scare him, because he's like, I don't want to get divorced. So I don't want to do anything that's going to potentially fuck with like the longevity of my marriage. Something else that was brought up that I think was a good point, and I even asked my newly engaged coworker this, is the fact that a lot of people get too comfortable when they start living with each other. So even if, you know, he wants marriage, you want marriage, and you all know that that's what you want, once you start getting into a groove and you start getting comfortable with one another within the home, it becomes like nothing to work for. Like you become less motivated to make it official, because you all have already created a life together. And we already know, again, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Like women, if you are a naturally good woman, your instincts as far as like nurturing and taking care of a home, things like that, they're gonna kick in regardless to if you married to that man or not. That's something I know that I did. I was in that bitch. Look, I don't cook damn near as much for myself as when I was living with a man. in there chefing healthy meals, making sure, you know, shit was being done, and these things that we deem, you know, marital duties, the lines start to get blurred because there is no boundary between what is strictly, you know, for a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and and then when do we start to transition into what we're supposed to be saving for our husbands and our wives and things of that nature. So you just want to think about the fact that, like, and my coworker said that she definitely, like, I asked how long they had been together. She's like 5 years, and they had been living together, I think, for like 3 of those years, or I can't remember the exact number, but she said she felt like had they not lived together, he would have proposed sooner, because she was like, that 5 years had me, I was tired, you know, she was waiting, and she felt like that added to him being comfortable, and the urgency to get married when you don't live together is not as high. It isn't. And you got to be able to admit that. I had another couple say that's now married, that they knew that if they had let that go on for too long, that it wouldn't have become a reason, and then that's how you end up being with somebody, having kids and shit, and now y'all in a common law marriage, but didn't nobody take, once y'all create everything together, it's like, you know, how, especially niggas, you know how niggas be, well, why we need a piece of paper to define what we doing anyway? That be the shit that be having me think like, maybe I don't need to live with no man before we get married, because they will turn around and have that perspective like, we already doing it, like, what's the purpose behind, you know what I mean? And for me there is purpose. So I completely agree that once you get in the swing of things, and you know, y'all don't let you bring kids into it, y'all already got your little family unit, you just ain't got the same last names, people stop caring about jumping the broom. You know what I mean? So that's something you really want to think about. You don't want nobody getting too comfortable. And again, you already doing wifely duties, doing husband duties for somebody who is not your wife or your husband. So my homegirl, she quoted something. She made a very good point, and I'm going to quote it because I don't want to get the wording wrong, and I think it's really powerful. She pretty much said that in marriage you live as one, but in cohabitation you live as two divided for an undetermined period of time, for as long as it remains convenient, until one or both of you decides otherwise. When you in a marriage, you are in that shit, and you're supposed to be forced to figure it the hell out. That's what somebody else I know said that's married. She said, like, when you don't live with, when you living together and you're not married, it's very easy to walk out when it comes to like annoyances. But when you do that and you're married, it's looked at as being petty. You know, it's looked at as being petty once you say that I do, which is true. Why is it that we feel more committed to working things out? Well, I mean, no, I ain't gonna even ask that question. We already know, because there's a lot that comes with marriage when you decide to no longer be together instead of like figuring that shit out. And all shit ain't, you know, everything can't be figured out. I'm not gonna even sit here and act like it can be. However, marriage acts as a buffer for the petty shit. That's what I've picked up on, especially when it comes to living together. Because once you in there is no deciding that you all aren't gonna do this because he leave the toilet seat up or it's water on the floor. You know what I mean? A lot of the petty shit go out the way. Another thing that came up that, baby, I can relate, which is, one girl said, I feel like, you know, her personal space is very important to her, and she know once you get married, you give all that up. So she want to enjoy it as long as she can. Same. After being single for 4 years, and I've been living by myself for about 5 years, like, I don't even know what that's gonna look like. And to me, shit, my personal space may be more important than the money that I'm saving. Like, that's what it is for me. I feel like something on me gotta be easier, because what the fuck I'm gonna live with you? I've been doing this shit on my own for all this time. You know, how splitting the rent, that's another topic for another day, but that's how I look at this shit. What I'm gonna come over there and split the rent with you for, and I can pay my own shit over here and have it all to myself. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But anyway, moving forward, I think also when you live together and you're not married, then shit gets tricky, because you got so much to decide Was he cute? Ooh. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. Y'all got so much to decide if the shit don't work out. Who gonna stay there? Who name coming off of the paperwork? If y'all got a dog, who get the dog? That's one I see all the time, is the whole sharing the damn dog thing. Because then when y'all don't work out, somebody gotta lose their child. And that is never fun. So that's something else you want to think about. I don't know. I'd probably live with somebody before I get a dog with them. Because baby, if we don't work out, this is my dog. I'm not giving them back. So you gonna have to find you another dog. You feel me? So that's something else you want to think about. It just gets messy when you like try to do everything, before you get married, because if the shit don't work out, now you got a whole bunch of obligations and commitments that you have to figure out. And that's not always the easy process. How many times have you seen or heard of somebody awkward? They awkward as fuck. They roommates. They ain't together no more, but they still living together. Like, that shit is weird. I had a dude try to talk to me one time. He's like, yeah, we ain't together no more. We just roommates. She still live here. And they fucking up your whole new dating groove. You can't even really get out there, because how a motherfucker gonna look at you when you say you still living with your ex? No, thank you. I'll pass. I don't want your situation. And again, like, I understand the logic behind really wanting to know somebody fully, know how they live, know their habits, know how they deal with bills and finances, and just they're learning their routine. And I'm here to tell you that as long as you are invested in your relationship fully, you really don't have to live with somebody in order to know that stuff. Like, I didn't think about it that way before, but I do think about that now. Like, if you spend a lot of time with somebody, you always in their space, you get a good understanding of how they live, and you let them know, okay, if we get married and live together, it's not gonna work. We're gonna have to work on that. And so that way, maybe you can start seeing them make strides in their own space before being forced to do it when you all are married. You get what I'm saying? So I that's one thing I can say I do see differently, is the fact that, like, if you are really doing your due diligence in your relationship to make sure that you are learning your partner in and out, the things that make them tick, the things that make them happy, sad, and just understanding how they deal with finances and all of that, how they cook, how often, like, they routine, like, you see all of that stuff just by spending a lot of time with somebody, and you don't necessarily have to do it by living with them. I know that my people, they lived together before they got married. However, I think what makes a big difference that came to me when I was writing down this part is, what are your intentions when you're dating anyway? You know what I mean? And not just dating, but when you officially decide to get in a relationship with somebody, are you being intentional about what you want? My parents were both in the position, and if you haven't seen the Meet the Parents video when we talk about all of this with them, please go check it out. But they pretty much, my dad understood that my mother was there for a purpose. She wasn't there to fuck around. My mama actually gave my daddy damn near an ultimatum and told him, like, bro, you got 2 years with me. Like, we'll date for a year and we'll live together for a year. But outside of that, I'm out, because she knew that she wanted to be married and she wanted to start building a family. And my dad became compliant with that. You know what I mean? He knew going into the relationship, or really like building in the relationship, that if he wasn't serious about her, he was gonna have to let her go, because she was on a mission. And I think more couples need to go into their relationships. Yes, you can't guarantee something gonna work out. You go with the flow. I don't fuck with that phrasing, because I think that it leaves room for you all to not make efforts and have intentions on where you want something to go. You don't leave your career to go with the flow. You make intentional moves and efforts to make sure that it's going to go in the direction that you want it to go in. And I think we need to do that in dating. We need to do that in relationships and apply that same mindset. We'll never say, oh, I don't think I'm ready for this job. Most people never say that, but you'll hear them say, I don't think I'm ready for a relationship. When are we truly ready for anything? Y'all only do that when it comes to deciding that, like, you want to commit yourself to another person. Because of you do that with jobs, it's the same thing. Like, it's still the same emotions and the same logic. But like with dating, y'all think that y'all supposed to just freely do shit and the perfect person's supposed to fall into your lap. No, it takes building towards that, whether you decide that you live with them later on down the line or you don't. So yeah, I think, and I'm gonna say about my parent situation, My mom never lived with anybody else. She only lived with my grandma. So that was her first experience living out on her own. And I think that makes a lot of difference too, versus like, again, me, I've been by myself, single, living on my own for almost 5 years at this point. So me wanting to cohabitate is not gonna come as quickly as somebody who's never been out on their own, you know. So I know I'm not rushing into living with nobody when, again, I don't see the benefit of it. I gotta make sure that this is mutually beneficial for both of us to make this move, because if it's not, then we just need to go ahead and wait until we're ready to cross that threshold. And in the meantime, we just enjoy each other's company. But let's not add a level of seriousness to it if it's not gonna take us in the right direction. Like, if you gonna live together, that better mean marriage is somewhere on your radar. That's how I feel about it. Because if you aren't intentional in knowing, like, okay, we only gonna do this for a little while because I don't want this to slow us down and keep our relationship stagnant, when we both do ideally want marriage at the end of everything, then we need to be intentional about doing that and make the actual effort. And, you know, to each their own, but what's more important and what's always going to be more important is, again, understanding the different depths of your partner. So that way you all can make a collaborative decision together about what you think is going to be more appropriate for the conditions of your relationship. And having the self-awareness, again, to know, like, yeah, if we live together, I probably ain't never going to marry that girl because I'm get comfy. Be honest with yourself and be honest with your partner, so that way y'all can set y'all relationship up for the best opportunity of success. Okay? So I think I got everything out. This may be something I go live about, so be on the lookout on my Instagram for that. And a bitch gotta go do some cardio, okay? Because it's summertime and the bitch needs to be summertime fine. So I'm finna go to the gym. I will chat with y'all later.